marketing is just thinking logically. Like if you self-analyze, if for example, if I'm going to buy a new mouse, right, I've got my computer mouse in front of me. What's the process I go through to identifying the right mouse for me, to choosing where I'm going to buy that mouse? And if I analyze, firstly, I'll ask my computer nerdy mates what mouse they'd recommend. Next, I'd look on YouTube reviews. Next, I'd go on Trustpilot. Like, if you actually think about the process you go through, then you can start to work backwards and think as a marketeer, that's where you need to be producing content that answers the questions they need to decide that you're the best solution to their problem. It's just logical. It just needs a bit of thought. And this is how we work with our brands. We work backwards from who they're trying to convince to do something, what their decision-making process is, and then coming up with a plan of action that needs to happen on each of those channels to provide the information they need.
Welcome to Social Post, a podcast brought to you by Team Edgar. Each week, we bring you a guest to inspire your creativity, breathe new life into your marketing strategy, and get you motivated to take action in your business. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned entrepreneur, you'll walk away feeling like you took your social media marketing multivitamin. Enjoy the interview and remember, what's possible for them is possible for you. And we can't wait to see your success.
Welcome back to Social Post, a podcast brought to you by me, Edgar. Today, we're really lucky to be joined by Dan Knowlton. He is one of the co-founders of a family-run business about social media and video marketing. So we're going to dive deep into a fun conversation. But before we start that, I'll pass it over to Dan. He'll get into a little bit about who he is, what he does, and let's start out with a question on what your favorite social media platform is right now.
Oh, that's a good question. Thanks for having me, first of all. Favorite social platform? LinkedIn. It's got to be LinkedIn at the minute.
Nice.
Love a bit of LinkedIn.
Very nice.
What about you? What's yours?
Oh, that's a great question as well. I like LinkedIn for the organic reach and stuff, but for our business, Twitter is still where we're seeing the majority of our traffic and stuff coming from our website. For sure, nice. We're lucky there. Yeah. So the reason we really wanted to bring you on today was because you guys have such a great expertise when it comes to video marketing and measuring the efforts you're putting into that content you're creating. Because I know when we create video, it takes a lot of time and effort. So can you start out by saying a few words on why you guys really love video marketing and talk to us a little bit about the why behind producing video for social media these days?
Yeah, good question. So I guess it starts, but when we started 6 years ago, we pretty much spent the first 2 years figuring stuff out. Like if you look back at our old YouTube channel, Knowlton, if you look back at some of our first videos, they were so bad. They were literally so bad. And it was fun to just try and test different things. For 2 years, we were just, not really know what we're doing, trying different things. Then in 2017, we made this video that was like a testimonials video to show our customers talking about working with us. But we tried like a different creative approach and made it entertaining and fun. And when we posted it, it only got like 50 comments and 50 likes and a few thousand views. But at the time, to us, that was like, wow, this works so well. And from then on, we were just like, right, that worked well. What else can we do? How can we tweak this to get more results? So why video? From our perspective, because it outperforms any other type of content that we've tested.
That's awesome. I love the organic approach to discovering that you're just creating something and realizing it works and iterating from there. And I feel like that's all successful social media campaigns when you hear about that origin story, how they start out. So that's really cool. So when you're setting goals for like having a piece of video content go out for your clients or for your own business, what are some of the goals that we should have in mind? Because I know if we establish those first, it typically has a better way of guiding where the content is going to go.
Yeah. So with most of our client campaigns, we produce video content that's teamed up with a paid social media ad strategy. So the main way that we're demonstrating return on investment for our clients is tracking the sales that are being generated from the ads we're running. And one of the key metrics we're looking at is return on ad spend. So, for every pound that a client is investing in ads, what are they getting in return? And that you know, it's crazy how much you can track with paid ads platforms like Facebook and Instagram ads. So yeah, that's how we do it.
Very cool. Now, when you're talking about ads, how much money do you feel like you have to put behind a video ad that you're creating in order for it to be successful and move people to convert them to customers on social media?
Good question. And that is a very open question because it really depends what you deem as successful. Like, for example, a small business owner that creates, you know, rings at home, handcrafted rings, could, you know, see if they sold 10 rings a month, that could be a good return investment. So they need to figure out, you know, what are they making on the sale of those rings? And then what cost per acquisition makes it feasible in terms of running ads. So you need to kind of work backwards at what does success look like to you? And it needs to be realistic as well. You know, if you've only sold 2 rings before and you say in month 1, I'm going to sell 10,000 rings, that's not realistic. So it needs to be a realistic, you know, goal to figure out how many you need to sell and what that's going to cost, what makes it worthwhile.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Cool. So when you're going out there and creating these videos for small business owners who aren't really at that step to hire an agency like Knowlton, what would you suggest are some of the things to think about during the creation process? Because your videos are incredibly engaging. They make you stop your scroll. And what is that kind of formula you guys have come up with in order to make that happen?
Great question. I'm glad you asked this. So first thing to say is, you have to make rubbish videos to learn how to make good videos.
Love it.
So set your expectations that your first videos, I'm not saying they're going to be rubbish, but compared to what they're eventually going to be, that you may think they're not great. Don't compare yourself to us who have been doing this for years and then make videos on a weekly basis. So set your expectations first of all. So in terms of the process you should go through, first of all, think about who is it you're trying to convince to do something. And this is like marketing 101, who's your target market? But it's so important to understand what that person looks like, to figure out what their interests are, what their problems are, what their pain points are, what they're trying to achieve. Once you and do research, like the next thing is, how do you do that? How do you figure out who they are? Interview current customers, do focus groups, you know, do research online to really figure out what makes up these people so that you can then start to build up a strategy of creating content that taps into those problems and those needs.
Yeah, so just really understanding who you're talking to. Now, I imagine that's kind of an interesting process for you guys working with multiple different brands. Are there any questions that you like ask people in these focus groups to really get to know the brand voice of your client's audience,
Yes.
if it's not one that you know intimately?
Yes. Yeah. So something that works really well to get, because I'll give you an example. So for example, we work with one of the longest running male grooming brands, Wall. They produce like male grooming products. They've got a professional range for barbers and a normal range for consumers. And one of the campaigns we ran was targeted at barbers. And everyone in our agency, nobody's been a barber. Nobody gets the language of barbers and understands the nuances of what do barbers chat about with their barber mates. So we went and interviewed barbers and asking questions like, tell me a funny story that's happened in your barbers. When you were chatting to your barber mates, what kind of things do you talk about? What funny things have happened with customers that you and your barber mates would laugh about together? What language do you use when you talk with your barber mates? Do you call a haircut, or do you call it a hairstyling? Or like it's being super specific and understanding how they do things, because we need to act as someone who's speaking the same language to them on behalf of a client. So a lot of thought needs to go into how are we speaking the right language, how are we saying the right things, how are we tapping into the right culturally relevant situations that a barber's going to see our ads and our videos and go, oh my God, I get that completely. That happens to me, and it will draw them in. So yeah, there's some examples.
I love that feeling you want to give to people watching the video, that they're speaking my language. So you do have to get that specific. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Also,
go ahead.
I was going to add something then. Sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, like, that was just step one.
Okay.
But there's, and once you like understand that person, who is you're trying to convince to do something, then you need to build a content strategy that's mapped to their decision-making process. So,
nice.
You know, just producing one video that's promoting your product isn't going to cut it. You need to think about the different stages of that decision-making process. And this refers back to like a traditional marketing funnel, which represents the journey someone goes on from becoming aware of you to considering and trusting your brand to then taking action. You need to break down those different layers of that journey and produce content at each of those stages. For example, at the awareness stage, you could be producing educational content, entertaining content like we do with our marketing sketches, inspiring content. When it gets to the next stage, the trust building stage, you need to be producing case studies, testimonials, objection overcoming content, benefit driven content, and then the purchase stage, kind of short, sharp calls to action. So there is a lot to think about, and it sounds like there's a lot to do, but you can break this down into bite-sized chunks to do it in a manageable way. So it's not that scary.
Oh my gosh, I love how simple you just made that funnel seem, and having inspirational entertaining be for awareness, having case studies be for consideration, and then the decision making, just having that urgency within your calls to action.
Yeah,
I feel like you hear it in so many ways, but I love how you just explained that so much.
It's just like marketing is just thinking logically. Like if you self-analyze, if for example, if I'm going to buy a new mouse, right, I've got my computer mouse in front of me. What's the process I go through to identifying the right mouse for me, to choosing where I'm going to buy that mouse, and if I analyze, firstly, I'll ask my computer nerdy mates what mouse they'd recommend. Next, I'd look on YouTube reviews. Next, I'd go on Trustpilot. Like, if you actually think about the process you go through, then you can start to work backwards and think as a marketeer, that's where you need to be producing content that answers the questions they need to decide that you're the best solution to their problem. It's just logical. It just needs a bit of thought. And this is how we work with our brands. We work backwards from who they're trying to convince to do something, what their decision-making process is, and then coming up with a plan of action that needs to happen on each of those channels to provide the information they need.
That is really logical marketing, I feel like, is something that we always forget to do because we want to be entertaining and inspiring, but bringing it down that funnel makes a lot of sense. I love that. Cool. So kind of thinking about these 3 different funnel stages, do you make videos for each of them, or do you strictly have videos for like that awareness, entertaining, inspirational stage? Or do you find that there are some strategies you can take for that like buying decision-making phase in your video creation?
Yeah. So firstly, everything I say to listeners, take with a pinch of salt, because I'm only giving the insight on my own experiences and our experience as a marketing company. We focus heavily on video, but that's not the only way. Like, you could build awareness through SEO, through writing SEO optimized articles that will drive traffic to your site that you can then remarket to with image-based ads or GIF-based ads.
Nice.
Like, there's so many ways to make this work. I think you've touched on, or like, one of the things I see a lot is marketers say, this is the way you should do it. It's just like me sitting here, you got to do video. Video is the only way to do things. No, it's not. Video is brilliant. And we've found that with our agency, but there's so many options out there. I think it's important to understand how to choose the right thing for you. So first of all, think about like, what skills do you have? If you hate being on camera, you are so scared of speaking, you're not confident like you are doing these interviews, then you're probably not the right person to be on video. Whereas if it's someone like you who's confident, who's good at talking to people, then video could be the right platform for you. If you're really good at writing, then doing SEO could be right for you. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it matters. It's more about the skills you've got and how you can best invest that resource to get the results you want.
Brilliant. I really love that idea of playing to your strengths. Like, of course, we want to work on our weaknesses and build those up, but I totally agree. It's going to come off so much better if you just play to your strengths that way. Yeah. Cool. So are you guys working on anything new these days that you're especially excited about? Any new features on the social platforms that you're testing out and seeing great results in?
So we're working on a few really exciting projects at the moment. And maybe if I start giving an insight into that, then there could be some cool things that we could share. So we are just doing a Christmas campaign for a big wine importer, which is really cool. So we've created a whole load of kind of lifestyle video content, studio-based product content that we're mapping to that each kind of layers of that funnel. Something that has worked really well for us as an agency is this entertaining style content. What we've learned, so it's been good and bad for us. because the entertaining content we produce has, you know, lots of people have seen it, hundreds of people engaging with it. A lot of people see us as the company that produces funny, entertaining content. However, that's one thing that we do. So we've had to have a bit of a communication sort of campaign to say, we don't just make funny videos, you know, like this wine project, there's nothing funny about it. It's like really cool, creative, beautiful shots of the wine, talking through the benefits and that kind of thing. Yes, we do kind of entertaining content work so well. I guess that's what we find works so well, entertaining content, but it doesn't just have to be that. Something else that we found has worked really well is emotion triggering content. So we did a campaign with a care company that was looking to drive leads from the children of elderly people to get them into their really nice care homes. And we produced this whole emotive video where there was showing the journey of someone who was at home who needed the care, and like that was the pain point. You can tell they need the care, eventually taking that journey to, wow, there's someone there to support them and feed them and help them and that kind of thing. So emotion triggering content we find works incredibly well. Entertaining content, anything that triggers any kind of emotion, makes people laugh, makes people cry, makes people happy, makes people sad, that's what works. And if you look at, if you actually after this podcast, look at your social media newsfeed, look at the content that you've shared on your own feed or retweeted or whatever, I guarantee every single piece of that has triggered some kind of emotion in you.
Yeah, this idea of looking at your own behavior on social media and your own purchasing habits, I think is a really underutilized marketing tool and tactic, because often like you don't realize the reason you bought something is because of the way they marketed it to you. So that's a really good tip.
I think with marketing, we try to get too fancy. We try to like, what's this cool new tool that can do X, Y, Z? It's this logical process that I mentioned before, thinking about who you're trying to target, the decision-making process, and then producing cool content that's interesting to consume that helps give them the answers to their questions. I think one of the biggest mistakes I see marketers making is they think so heavily about the end result, the sale, you know, let's produce like an awareness video showing all the great features of the product. Yes, that's great, but it needs to be something interesting that people are going to watch. Because if you've got a 5-minute video showing the great features of your product, but no one's going to watch it because it's boring, it makes it completely pointless and a waste of money. So it's constantly thinking, how can you produce something that ticks the right boxes in terms of the objective of each of those layers of content, but also makes it interesting to consume.
Yeah, because if you don't have that interesting layer and you're not grabbing someone's attention, they're not actually going to pay attention to the information you're trying to get them. Right. That makes sense. Cool. So on the videos that you guys are producing, I think it's kind of interesting that you're saying you are known for being really funny, because I feel like one of the things in marketing these days is niche down, really know who you want to be, like only do one thing, which makes a lot of sense. But I love that you brought up this fact that like, hey, we also make videos that aren't funny. We also really market to these different clients, like this wine client you were talking about. When you are actually going out there and looking for clients and stuff, how do you actually get niche enough but broad enough to have this work for your agency?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we've got it wrong in the past. So I think, like I said, kind of, we went so much down this entertaining style content worked so well for us that we were like, let's just do entertaining content. Then we did loads of entertaining content, which got tens of thousands of views, hundreds of people commenting and becoming aware of us. But we weren't, first of all, everyone thought we just did funny content. Secondly, we weren't producing the content, the consideration content that builds that trust, because traditionally we found that content doesn't tend to perform as well, because it's not as interesting as like a funny, entertaining video. It's more of a practical, look at this case study, look at this cool work we're doing. So we haven't got it right in the past. However, through learning and making those mistakes, we're now having more of a focus on producing content at each of those stages that is a different range of content. Like isn't like at the awareness stage, isn't just funny, entertaining content, but is cool content showing some of the cool stuff we can do with editing videos. Like we recently did a superhero campaign for a product-based company, and we had loads of cool effects with the superhero, like, you know, like you see in superhero movies, if you watch them, they like move really quickly, and it looks like they've got like showing that cool stuff and different ways of making interesting content at each of those stages. I think it's just about being creative. One of the pieces of content that we've made that actually ticks all of the boxes that works incredibly well is an entertaining sketch that actually subtly communicates the benefits of working with us. So, for example, there's pinned on my LinkedIn profile, there's a video called Marketing Channels in Real Life. And what that is a sketch where my co-founder and I play different characters as if they're in a job interview, and the job interview is looking for a marketing channel, and we play the character of a marketing channel in a job interview. So one of us is SEO, one of us is leaflets, one of us is PPC, one of us is Knowlton's marketing support. And as we go through that, we have funny, you've definitely got to watch it just to get the context.
I can tell. This looks awesome.
We have like a funny script to tap into funny things to do with each channel. Like, for example, leaflets in the thing says, "Oh, I'm lucky to be here because most of the time I get chucked in the skip." Like, it's like tapping into those kind of things. And when it gets to us, I have an opportunity to actually say, "We're Knowlton and we can do X, Y, Z for you." And it's basically us advertising ourselves, but in a cool, creative way. And at one point, we kind of look at the camera and say, "Look, this is literally an advert for our company and you're still watching 5 minutes in," and carry on and wink at the camera. And like that's they call it like a light bulb moment in a piece of content where someone's going, "Wow, that's how they could actually help us. They could help us by producing content people want to consume while selling." But yeah, that's just something else that's worked well for us.
Oh, that's so good. Like breaking that wall and actually talking directly to someone. That's so clever. I'm going to definitely go and look that up. Very cool.
Cool.
Awesome. So for the last few minutes here, I'd love just to touch on something that you said before, and that's like the return on ad spend that you get. And you said something about, if you spend like £1 on the ad and you can guarantee something like £5 to £15 in return. What are you doing to do this? What are you targeting? Like how does that all work? That sounds so great.
Great question. So it's really about understanding the different layers of that funnel. Okay. And then, it depends very much on the client and if they've got kind of databases, how much web traffic they're getting so that we can create custom audiences and lookalike audiences, how we're going to be remarketing to each of those customers that have shown interest at each of those layers. So it's really about understanding what are the signals to us that someone is showing interest in their product, and what piece of content do they need to see at that stage to nudge them to that next step. So for example, if someone's going on to your product page, putting, you might have seen these before, putting an item in your basket, but then not buying it, you can specifically remarket to those customers with content saying, "Hey, you didn't quite finish the process to check out. Benefit, benefit, benefit. Here's why you should do it now, quickly." So it's thinking about what the signals are to identify the stage someone's at in that funnel, and then setting up ads at each of those stages to remarket to them.
Very nice. I feel like I'm going to have to sit down and really think about the logicalness of our marketing strategy here at Team Edgar after this conversation. You've given us so much to think about. Now, do you think there's any question here at the end that I should have asked you that would really help our audience take some notice on how they can improve their marketing strategy going forward?
There is one thing, actually.
Nice.
If you'd have asked me what's a really interesting business-based podcast to listen to where you can learn lots of insights about business and it's also fun and entertaining to listen to, I'd probably say the Business Anchors podcast that I host with my co-founder and brother. As you asked.
It's actually so true. I listened to a couple of your episodes, and the funny cadence of it and just the way you guys interact with each other, it is worth a listen, guys. So Business Anchors, it's an awesome one. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. Where else can people find you guys online?
On our website, knowltonmarketing.co.uk, and I'm also on LinkedIn, on Twitter.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We all have a lot of logical thinking to do here today, guys. If you learned anything that you have for a takeaway, go ahead and share it. Tag me, Edgar, and we'd love to hear your feedback about the episode today. Episodes come out every Wednesday, so be sure to subscribe. Dan, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in. And be sure to keep the conversation going with us on social. We're at Meet Edgar on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So let us know your biggest takeaway from today's episode. And don't forget to tag us. Visit www.meetedgar.com and start a free trial to up-level your social media marketing strategy today. Happy posting!